Welcome to Lorusso's Room, the talk show where we talk most of the time, if not always, out of our hats about our ideas, our thoughts and opinions, and most importantly, our studies and works with a variety of creative and artistic guests every week. I'm your host, Noah Lorusso, and this week in the room we have my good friend who goes by the username Palzee joining us. Palzee is a student going into the field of game art and design this upcoming academic year, and he is very well spoken and intelligent, especially on the topic of video games. But do not dare speak ill of Titanfall 2 around him, or you might just face his wrath. Palzee also hosts live streams over on Twitch, and you can find his channel at twitch.tv/Palzee_, and you can also find that link down in the description below. Palzee and I speculate on the possible successions and shortcomings, as well as review what we know on the upcoming multiplayer online battle arena project, or MOBA for short, in collaboration between the Pokemon Company and Tencent Games called Pokemon Unite. We also discuss my idea of using Pokemon Unite as an opportunity to reboot a much beloved Pokemon spin-off series, but I'll let you figure out what that one is as you watch. Get comfortable, because this isn't just two Pokemon fans whining about a lack of Gen 4 remakes. This is Lorusso's Room. So, Palzee, I think it's always courteous to start out the show with a little bit of a check-in. How have you been doing in the last couple of days since we last talked?
I've been doing all right. Haven't really done much, but there's not much to do anyway. So I've been playing some Titanfall 2. That's in its renaissance.
Renaissance? What does that mean?
Well, cause I believe it's French for rebirth. I believe because it just got back on Steam, and now the player base is like actually functioning.
Oh, that's actually awesome.
Yeah.
Well, okay, now I'm conflicted because I wanted to ask you about your Dreamcast, but I also really want to say that now I want to play Titanfall 2. So I guess we'll hit both. Now I really want to play Titanfall 2 because I remember really liking it when I played the beta. And also, how's being a Dreamcast game dad been?
You can just say owner.
No.
Oh. It's good. The battery for the clock doesn't work, but otherwise it's in wonderful condition. I just wish I had more games for it.
Okay, that's fair.
'Cause the games I do have are a bit jank.
What games did you get with it?
I got a few sports games, and then I have Sonic Adventure and Crazy Taxi.
Ooh, Sonic Adventure's good.
Yeah, it's super jank.
It's jank, but
part of the charm.
I think that's like the selling point of any Sonic game is when it's super fucking broken. That's my favorite anyway. Palzee, I wanted to ask, and this might be a stupid question because I think the entire fandom heard. But did you hear about Pokemon Unite when that was announced?
No, I didn't. Of course I did. I woke up early to see that.
Well, I'm glad that I didn't wake up early for it because I woke up about 3 hours after it debuted. But Palzee, I brought you on the show today because as we discussed in our previous conversations, you're very well versed in the technical design of video game design. Did I say that?
To a point, yeah. Close enough.
It works. Yeah, and I'm somewhat well versed in the visual and aesthetic design of whether that be video games or just overall images. But I figured using both of our brains together to come together and talk about the subject a little bit, we could create a little bit of magic because I've got some good opinions on Pokemon Unite.
Are those takes hot or cold?
I think
or somewhere in between.
I definitely think they're takes, and I think one of them might really throw a curveball at you. So yeah, I would say my last point might really give you a run for your money.
Really?
Yeah,
well, I'm excited to hear what it is.
Oh, dude, it's a weird idea to portray, and I think it's gonna be a good little bit of a discussion or argument point. But how much do you know about the team and the work that's behind Pokemon Unite?
Yeah, I've done a little bit of like quick looks at both TiMi Studios and Tencent. It's kind of a bit sketch, but I'm not fully informed on what they do.
Oh, it's kind of Tencent is a little bit scary. But I'm gonna do a little bit of exposition on the topic. And as to not talk at you, I'm gonna torment you and make sure that you're paying attention while I do it.
Oh no.
So this is gonna be fun. Tencent is an investment holding conglomerate, and they hold a ton of subsidiaries that focus in internet-related products and services. They're also worth a shit ton of money. They're the fifth largest internet company in the world, and they're right up there with Apple. Are you listening, Pauls?
I am.
Are you taking notes? Okay, good. Apple, Amazon, and this is in order. For you, not for
Oh, okay.
the list. This is what you have to remember.
Oh no.
And
Hold on. Let me get a note sheet up. Let me get a note sheet up.
Right up there with Apple, Amazon, and Facebook to surpass $500 billion. So yeah, they kind of run the web in China. They're a big deal. Like they've got OSs, they've got bank services, property. It's crazy how much their market is. Are you listening? Are you getting this?
Yeah. Are they the ones who own Weibo, or is that a different company?
I didn't look into that. So I have no god honest clue.
All right.
But I do know one of the things that they own. One of their teams is TiMi Studios, and they handle their game development at Tencent Games. TiMi Studios, and this is right off their page, strives to create high quality and highly accessible games across a wide variety of genres. And I find that funny because most of their popular games are MOBAs. Are you getting that?
Most of their popular games are MOBAs. They
There you
got
go. Good man. And their most notable titles are Honor of Kings, Arena of Valor, Speed Drifters, and I can't tell you the last time I played Speed Drifters, COD Mobile, PUBG Mobile, and the upcoming Pokemon Unite. So they've got a lot of titles, and actually, I believe it was Honor of Kings was one of the highest grossing mobile games worldwide, and I think that was back in March 2020. So
really.
I know, right? I haven't heard of it.
I've
even a
never
little bit.
heard of that.
Well, isn't that crazy? Because
Suppose it's going for a different market.
yeah. So Tencent also owns Riot Games, and they have relations to the upcoming League of Legends Wild Rift. I always say it like that because I always want to say Wild Charge. There's no info on Tencent's involvement with the game, so I guess we'll have to wait to see if there's a big old logo slapped on it at the end. But it's funny because Arena of Valor, just as a little fun fact, was actually created after Tencent approached Riot Games and said that we should make a mobile version of your game. And after Riot said no, they made Arena of Valor, and Arena of Valor became one of the biggest mobile games.
Isn't Arena of Valor the one that got spammed in YouTube ads for like a year?
I believe so, because I remember a lot. I remember hearing the name Honor of Kings, and I remember hearing the name Arena of Valor, but I could never put a face to the name.
Yeah, I was wondering why those sounded so much like YouTube ads.
Right?
But I'm almost certain those were like one of two ads that played consistently for a good few months.
Nothing will ever be as popular as the Legend 27, though. Nothing will ever hit meme markets
Oh,
like that.
yeah.
Oh, boy.
God, that brings me back.
Pokemon Unite is TiMi Studios' latest project in development alongside the Pokemon Company, obviously. And the game is described to be playable for all, to bring about all new gameplay experiences that will surprise and delight, and will offer a lot of depth to be played over and over again. Those are the exact words from Daddy Deepfake. I can't remember his name, Steven something in the direct. But I think it's important that I mention these guys and their products and what they're known for to know what kind of hands the Pokemon IP has been placed in. Because I hope to God that Pokemon Company wouldn't give us a half-assed product, right?
Oh.
I really hope.
Would never.
No, they couldn't do that. It's Pokemon Company. So yeah, did you get all that? You have all that in notes?
I got most of it.
Okay, sweet. You're a good man. I really didn't expect you to.
I read some about TiMi Studios.
Okay.
They're the amount of mobile games in that Wikipedia article scares me.
Actually,
There's too many.
from what I found, they've only developed 18 of them.
That's still like too many.
Yeah, it's definitely a
I don't
lot.
know. I'm not a mobile guy all that much.
No, I really don't think anybody willingly is. Um, but I found TiMi Studios really interesting because of how often big names will go to them to develop their games.
Yeah, that shocked me. They had a couple Contra games, PUBG, obviously now Pokemon.
Yeah,
It's kind of sketch that they're getting this much credibility, even though really their games aren't, I don't think, particularly well known, or at least they as a studio aren't. You know?
isn't that really funny? To think that a game can be one of the largest grossing on a platform and a mainstream audience not really know about it more than people talking about it, because these games still have followings. Even just today, as I was doing my research, I found that Arena of Valor still has an active community. There's people
Really?
uploading videos on a consistent schedule about in-depth gameplay of Arena of Valor. I didn't do much look into Honor of Kings, so if anybody at home feels like looking up Honor of Kings and seeing what that game's up to, go ahead. But I do know that now Arena of Valor is under another developer, or at least I
Ah,
believe. Um, once they were once they wanted to shift focus to it was either Pokemon Unite or it was Wild Rift. They wanted to sell it.
makes sense.
So yeah, I'm really glad that it's at least a credible company, if not their game CEO being a deep fake. I can look past that. I can look past Daddy Deepfake. Yeah, before we jump into discussion about Pokemon Unite, I wanted to ask you what your thoughts on the project were.
All right, this is a hot take, and I'm not gonna go fully into it, because I'm not sure what we're gonna be discussing later. But I don't think it looks that bad. It got a lot of hate, but I think only because of the fact that it was revealed on its own. Um, but even then, I don't necessarily think from a business perspective that was necessarily the wrong move. It's one of the Pokemon Company's first major collaborations with another developer, you know? That's
Yes,
a
yeah.
pretty big deal. Um, it's not something that the average person is going to care about, but like from a business perspective, that is absolutely massive.
Oh, it's huge. And I think it was at a very uh opportune time, at least for Tencent, because now that pushes their mobile market, and that pushes their other MOBA games, and of course now there's League of Legends Wild Rift in production. So I think it was a good time to at least say it. And of course, for fans, maybe it was a little bit disappointing because we wanted to find out if we were finally getting Sinnoh remakes, or we were.
It's not going to happen.
No, I don't think
Not
it's gonna happen
anytime
either.
soon.
We'll be on PS7 and the Xbox fucking 740 million, and the Nintendo fucking laptop by then. So whatever. I can wait.
Nah, Nintendo's just going to go full flip phone.
Oh my lord, that would Nintendo burner phones.
Go from the Nintendo Switch to the Nintendo Flip. Easy clap.
That'd be
That's
amazing.
easy branding. That's
Yeah,
easy branding.
they're just gonna start marketing a Rubik's cube with a screen eventually. I
Oh
feel
my god, yes.
like
Please.
the entire controller is gonna be the Rubik's cube, and I don't know how crazy that would be, but holy hell
That would be kind of hype.
would that be interesting. I wonder how fucking Pokemon Glimmer Diamond and Shining Pearl would be on that. Ooh.
All right, we're going to mark down those names.
Yes, yeah, that's our future predictions onto Pokemon Company.
Yo, we got the leaks here.
Stay tuned on Larusso's room for Pokemon leaks. I would.
All right.
So yeah, I'm kind of in a similar boat with that. I think at this current moment in time, Unite doesn't look horrible, but I'm strongly iffy on the art style.
Yeah.
Because as far as the art style goes, it's very, very uninspired. Um, the map that they showed off during the reveal looks so desolate and uninspired. Although the flora and fauna of the map look okay and they're very appealing, and they have that very cool color schemed Pokemon style. It's just, it looks like there's no motive behind the decisions that they made to put things where they were, and there's no real themes behind the map design. The HUDs look okay, but they just kind of look like simplified versions of the HUDs that we saw in Pokken tournament, which I don't think it's a bad decision. It's just kind of basic.
I mean, with a basic UI though, you got to remember like this is, I believe, going to phones as well. So like you gotta account for like the lowest common denominator there, and I don't know how far back they're willing to go in terms of hardware support for phones. But depending on how far back they're going, they're gonna need to keep it simplistic.
That is 100% true. I would also say that it's a decision based on who they're marketing the games to, because looking at Arena of Valor and Honor of Kings, their HUDs are much more detailed, but I also think those games are marketed towards the people that like MOBAs and are with the people that
Right.
play MOBAs on a basis. So I would say that it's probably a choice to make it more accessible, because one of the things Pokemon Company always tries to do is market to everybody, but mostly
Right.
to new players. And with an accessible game, you kind of have to make it look simple. But the one thing that I loved most about the art style is the character select screen, because it is so unbelievably generic that it hurts.
No.
Do you remember when Pokemon Sword and Shield was announced? Or actually, when Pokemon Sword and Shield started showing gameplay, and there were those videos circulating Twitter of the footage of Sword and Shield next to that mobile game that looked way better than it.
I think I might have saw like one or two videos, but I never really paid much attention to it at the time.
Oh God, I thought that was one of the funniest things in the world, to see that menu beside Pokemon, and the bootleg look better. But the reason why I bring that up is because that's exactly what it looks like. The menu that they chose in the character select looks exactly like every bootleg mobile Pokemon game,
I know.
which I just thought that was way too funny that they would go ahead and make that call.
Right.
So I don't think the style is awful, but I just think it lacks motive.
It's very generic.
Very, very generic.
Like it's like they just took League and modded it for like a Pokemon models.
That's what I said too. It looks like they took um you know name any MOBA here and dropped in Pokemon models. I don't know. And I can't necessarily tell if the models are new. But they don't look the same as what we've had for the last fucking what, 4 generations of Pokemon games now? No, not four.
Right.
3 generations.
Yeah. It's
So
again, I think it comes down to like, well, they're gonna need to put this on phones, and somewhere along the line, you need to make a decision on. Well, no, that doesn't work either because Pokemon Go uses those same models. So now I'm confused.
well, I actually don't mind the decision that they made with the models, because I do think that they're new models, and overall I don't think they look bad. I actually think they look really good. And surprisingly, I think they did really well on the animations, especially the battle animations.
Yeah, the attack animations look great. I will say.
The only thing I would say is at a glance, they look kind of janky, and it doesn't look like there's a lot of uh, motion in between. But again, it's mobile. I can't really complain. But watching, I think it was Pikachu use his Unite move in the reveal. It looks super appealing. No, sorry. Watching Blastoise use his Unite move in the reveal, it was super appealing because like you saw him like move back and he's like, all right, here we fucking go. I'm gonna turn into my shell. It was really cool. So I was actually really happy to see that. And I do. So the one thing that I really wanted to talk about when I thought about this is how boring the gameplay looked. But I started reviewing the video over and over and watching the gameplay, and I started to learn something about MOBAs. I started to watch some videos on Dota and League and see how they play versus each other. And this game does have some very interesting things going for it with the unique Pokemon spin. One of the things that I really liked, one of the things that I really liked about it was the evolution system, and your Pokemon is able to learn new moves as you go, and based on the scenario that you're in, you can build a different kit each time, and it kind of diversifies or it strengthens the particular role that you're trying to play as that Pokemon. So I thought that was pretty cool to see.
I think I'm in a similar spot. I think the evolution mechanic is cool, but it seems to me, and I might be wrong. I didn't watch the whole trailer, or didn't watch the whole trailer recently. But what concerns me is there are so few characters, um, and if they're going to stick with three evolution lines, which is what they seem to be going for, you're not going to have a lot of depth.
Totally, I agree. Right now, there's I'm looking at the screen right now. There are 4 evolution or third stage evolutions, and I believe Snorlax and Lucario and Clefable don't
Oh,
evolve off the bat, as well as Pikachu. So I thought that was a really interesting decision that they'd make the evolution mechanic but not make every Pokemon equal in that way.
right. And then from there, now with that, there's more character depth, but how do you balance that? There are
Exactly.
going to be Pokemon that will, are you just going to have them evolve later and be weaker for a longer portion of the match, or are you going to have them start evolved and be way stronger than everyone else for this seems really hard to tweak, especially if this takes off and there becomes a meta. I don't know. It seems really hard to balance for, and if they don't add any other characters, I don't I don't see this going too far.
I think if anything, looking at Tencent and looking at Pokemon Company, it seems like a lot of the gameplay decisions made were probably led by Pokemon Company, because Tencent's games seem very in depth and there's a very technical skill level to them. But with Pokemon Unite, you can definitely see that it's much different than what they're used to, um, because it's just a lot more streamlined and it's a lot more simplistic. Even looking at the maps in Dota or League, the map is much smaller and much more readable, uh, to just a different degree. And with that, it also makes a lot of sense because, and again, I don't know much about League. I literally just learned everything that I know about it this morning. Um, but looking at the maps in League, uh, it looks a lot more complicated to move around them, where Pokemon Unite is right to left. Um,
I feel like, and we can get more into this later. I'm not sure if you have this planned or whatever, but from a gameplay perspective, I've noticed that they've been saying a lot this game is super accessible, blah 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 blah. the thought of an accessible MOBA scares me a little bit because MOBAs as a genre aren't super accessible. And, I get the idea that they want to make you know, they want to make it playable for, even like kids. But how is that going to work? There's a point you reach where you're sacrificing gameplay elements for accessibility. And I don't know how well that's going to end up. Um,
Definitely.
especially
Uh,
because and maybe this is just from not part of the final version or whatever, but like there's nothing really to make it all that hard to score. In games like League, they have turrets protecting the main towers, and you gotta like go in as a team, coordinated with your minions, so that you don't get picked off. And then you got to break down their defenses until you can actually reach the scoring point. It seems way too easy to just go in, get like two people on a random dude guarding the score point, and just farming.
100%. I totally agree. Um, yeah, even first of all, watching MOBA pro play is probably the most confusing and most mind-numbing thing I've ever done. And I was an Overwatch player for a very long time, and I play Rust, so I know something about mind-numbing. But uh, watching the Pokemon gameplay that was shown, it seems a lot more like you're rushing to get to the center point and defeat your enemies to reach a goal quicker, where the pro play seemed to be very based on farming materials and being prepared in a position before you attack. And once again, I'm no expert on MOBAs. I actually know almost nothing.
Yeah,
But
same here.
so yeah, I guess we're not the most educated to talk about this, but we are Pokemon fans, and I
Yeah,
think that's important. So that was definitely something that I noticed where this game feels like it's going to be a lot more fast paced than the planned 40 minutes that you're going to spend in a Dota match each time, which
right.
I'm very okay with because yes, I am a newcomer to um, MOBAs now, and with Pokemon, I'm gonna fuck every Pokemon fan will tell you they hate everything that Pokemon releases, but they'll fucking buy it every time because that's how it is. We've been conditioned to do it every time because we
Right.
need Pokemon in our blood
We
every.
need our fix.
It's an addiction. It's a Pokemon addiction. It really is. They'll never go. They'll probably never go under because we'll keep coming back. I was really interested that they said that there was going to be type combos because I thought that could be a very interesting mechanic to try and work into a MOBA because I feel like that could really structure team building a lot different. Where in the main games, competitive Pokemon always has tight coverage,
Right.
and to kind of see that not a staple in a team-based battle is a little bit strange. But then again, I'm not really sure how they could have done it.
Right. And I mean, I don't know. I think it comes down to a couple of things. Like they've said before that they want to make this game as accessible as possible. Um, adding in something like time combinations would be kind of weird for someone, especially someone who's never played a MOBA before.
Yeah, and on top of the already existing system of managing your levels, something would probably have to go because again, in a traditional MOBA, there's like a million things that you have to manage. But in this game, it looks like there's probably five or six, if that. So that's probably what's gonna make it okay. I get it. I know how to play a very basic MOBA and manage my stuff. So, but um, I was really interested that they kind of vouched against doing type combos because I feel like that could have gave some very interesting spotlight to Pokemon with interesting type combinations that aren't really in um, other other games. I can't name any off my brain, but I think that could have really been interesting for the roster, and I think that could have been really interesting for a competitive standpoint. I feel like they could have even simplified how it works, because maybe we don't need dual types. Maybe we can have single types like the Pokemon trading card game, but just with a more diverse pool. And maybe every type has 2 weaknesses each. So grass could be weak to fire and ice if ice is in the game.
Mhm.
Fire could be weak to rock and water. Water could be weak to grass and what else? What else is water weak to? I can't think of it right now.
Electric.
There you go. That's a smart one. Yeah, there you go. And already that puts the game at a very interesting point, because the only two Pokemon. Oh, actually, sorry, no. There are only two sets of Pokemon that match typings in the roster so far, and that's Talonflame and Charizard, and Lucario and Machoke. Machamp, sorry. Um, so it would have been interesting to see what other decisions they could have made based on a different type advantage or something. But I will admit that probably would clog gameplay a little bit, or at least for new players coming into it. It would make sense on a ground standpoint, of course. Like, oh, if I use Blastoise, I'm gonna fuck up Charizard. But yeah, from a deeper level of gameplay, it probably would get a little bit strange.
I mean, I think the problem of accessibility is sort of secondary in this instance. Um, the thing with having type advantages and disadvantages um, is like, what are you gonna do in terms of time to kill and pacing? You know, with especially since you're not able to swap your character. Um, if you have a team and the enemy team pick characters that all counter yours, what do you do? And I know you had said that they want to make this game a bit more fast paced. Uh, if you're playing Charizard and you're getting absolutely dunked on by a Blastoise, you know he's gonna, you lose that guaranteed. You're gonna be spending another 10, 20, 30, seconds in spawn. That just royally screws the pace. And someone that's just getting into MOBAs or whatever, they're not gonna want to play that.
Yeah, definitely. And that was kind of thing that I thought of too, where um, in a roster of characters that have natural advantages over each other, that aren't skill based, they're just hardwired into the game. It does create a spot where there is obvious disadvantages. If the roster gets large enough where there's 30 Pokemon, 5 versus 5 gameplay, at that point there is potential that an entire enemy team could be resistant to your attacks and completely wallop you. And
Right.
that's exactly what the problem would be coming with that. And then from there, what obviously the easiest point to balance that would be pick Pokemon that can always create a circle so that there's no instances where that could happen. But with that being said, that also would severely screw with the picks in the roster. Um,
Right.
to where now, like, once you have 20 Pokemon, how many more fire types or water types can you add
Exactly.
to keep creating that circle? And then it's less based on community pick or who could be interesting in a gameplay setting and who's going to keep the game balanced.
Right.
And that is something that developers worry about, because in Overwatch we've seen heroes that kind of don't fix the meta, but they definitely keep the meta in a different state. Um,
Right.
so yeah, so that's always been a thought.
Well, now that we're talking about metas, you know, that does bring up a good point. Like, sure, you can make your teams so that everyone can counter everything, but you know, making players do that sort of I think locks them in a way that most people don't want. With Overwatch, a similar kind of situation ended up happening where uh, I'm not sure how super familiar you are with the GOATS meta, but there was a point in time where you could only play one comp, and if you weren't playing that comp other than on like 2 maps, you're throwing.
It's game over, man. Game over.
Yeah, but then what do you do? Do you put in 2-2-2 lock, which they did eventually do, but there was some pushback because now player choice is super limited. You can't run the super weird, like triple DPS, like 6 supports, uh, like quad tank. It's kind of a weird situation because sometimes just from a pure mechanical standpoint, you kind of back yourself into a corner. And that's kind of my concern because I'm sure this game is going to get updates. They're not just going to drop it dead. That's not
No, guarantee.
what Pokemon Company do. But then there's going to be a point where if this game does take off, there is going to be a meta that is unkillable. That is, uh, unable to be stopped by means of just like making a cooldown longer or giving them less health or making their attacks weaker. Then what do? Like, this game seems so mechanically simple that like if you run into a balancing issue like that, there is going to be some serious changes needed to the gameplay just to make the game playable for the average person.
Totally. And I think the word that you used, you said it locks a player into playing a certain way. I think that's really important to think about because that isn't fun. And
Right.
obviously the one thing that you want a video game to be is fun and enjoyable. And I think that kind of comes before anything. If you're having fun, then it's I guess you can say it's probably a good game to you anyway. But when it comes down to that, with a sense of type advantage, then it becomes less of it becomes less of playing a character because you like their play style and more of you're playing them because it's a much needed counter pick.
Yeah.
It's not rewarding you for being skillful, it's rewarding you for knowing
What counters what?
exactly. And that's just not fun. That's not fun. I don't want to have to pick fucking Talonflame to counter Venusaur. I was looking at the roster and I was like, what is fire good against? I couldn't believe I did that.
He's part flying. You could pick Machamp.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I totally could have said that. But yeah, that's not fun. And obviously counterpicks come in video games. But it's in a different instance because it's not that the character's mechanically fun. It's that they're they're just better than the character. And I don't think that's fun. I don't think from a gameplay perspective that's fun.
Right. And the thing with like lacking type advantages as well is like if the move pools were as diverse as actual Pokemon, it could work.
So yeah,
I
that was
I,
my
I,
thought too.
I hate the meme here, but like if you were to put in like Dunsparce with his actual move pool, my man could go against any other single Pokemon on the roster because he has such a deep and diverse move pool. But it seems to me, especially with this sort of accessibility first mindset that TiMi Studios seems to be going for, they're going to be going with moves that are more suitable for that Pokemon's main type. Like Charizard gets fire moves, Venusaur gets grass moves, Blastoise
Yeah,
gets
that's how
water
it
moves.
is, right? Yeah.
Right. And then, I think the game would be potentially more fun if they added in type type matchups because that's you know for in a game like a MOBA, you know that mechanical depth, really can be the thing that makes a game fun. Uh, I think it's kind of been done before with like certain classes kind of countering one another. Um, I think it was in like Heroes of the Storm. They had a sort of similar concept, and I'm sure that it's the same in other MOBAs. But like I was a tracer main in Heroes of the Storm, so I can pepper in a lot of damage. But if I get someone, or if I go up against someone who's super tanky, I'm screwed. You know that mechanical and strategical depth adds so much to the game. But I feel like in an attempt to make this game as simple as possible, TiMi is just missing out on a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And to give it to them, it would be hard to develop a MOBA for an audience of younger people to people who don't play MOBAs, because these games are very complicated. I think the next thing that's as complicated are probably RTS, and I still don't even know anything about RTS. So that's I think what they're doing with making the game the way it is a smart decision. And overall, I don't think it's going to be a bad game, but I'm very, very disappointed on how it looks.
I don't feel the same way as you. I feel like a concerned parent. I just want to know if everything's okay.
Yeah, I am a little bit scared of the deep fake, but I want to give an idea that I think is really interesting, and I think could have totally sold me on this game completely, whether it be because of the name or because I'm very, very deep into visuals and themes and motives. But I think that this game could have worked as a spin-off of a spin-off title, and that spin-off being Pokemon Stadium.
Really?
I think it 100% could have worked.
Well, now you got to elaborate. How do you do a spin-off of a spin-off?
Well, let me tell you one thing. You know that game that you've been playing, Persona 4?
I do know that.
Well, Buster, that game and its series is actually a spin-off of the Megami Tensei series.
Right.
And Persona also has spin-offs.
Oh. Okay.
And using that logic, that it would be possible. And with Persona, the dancing with it, or what is it? The Dancing in Starlight games. Yeah, those games are all by different directors. So it is possible for Pokemon Company to say to Tencent that we want a Pokemon Stadium spin-off. And you could have called it something simply Pokemon Stadium Unite. I think that would have been really, really cool to see. And with the stadium element, Junichi Masuda said that if we wanted to see another Pokemon Stadium game, they would have to innovate, because now seeing Pokemon in 3D isn't that interesting. And
right.
What this game is doing, I would say, is pretty innovative. So the one thing that they said at the beginning of the reveal was, this is the largest amount of Pokemon battling at once that we've seen. And it's breaking into a new genre, as well as it's making a now more strategic Pokemon game. So I think it could have worked perfectly with the theme of trainers coming together in one place, uniting to battle in this new format of 5v5 using their Pokemon. I think it would have been a really, really cool thing to see.
I think that's not that's not a bad idea, but I think there are a few things that would need to be considered if you were going to go down that route. A, there are going to be a lot of people who are really going to be mad at Pokemon Company using, this isn't my Pokemon Stadium. Why can't I use my link cable, Nintendo? Uh, this isn't Pokemon battling. This is rip-off League. How are you going to deal with that?
Yeah, that's a concern.
That is going to turn a lot of people off. But like, if you're going to go down the route of naming it like a Pokemon Stadium Unite or whatever, I think you would need to go all the way in with that. You know, the younger people in the Pokemon fan base don't know much about Pokemon Stadium. That would not go over with them as well as it would the older parts of the fan base. Use that opportunity to ease off the accessibility. Then, if you do that, you can just make this game that is so much more mechanically complex and deep and replayable, um, and just get to this audience that maybe have lapsed because of the pandering to a younger audience. Even if it's not a traditional type of game, I think there is a large portion of the Pokemon fandom that wants something more deep, more complex. And as of now, it doesn't seem like Pokemon Unite is willing to give that to them. I would love to have seen them go towards the direction of full complexity, like League or Dota. But it just doesn't seem that they want to fully pull the trigger on that.
No, no, of course not. Because that's kind of how Pokemon Company rolls. But I 100% agree with you with adding that level of complexity would be I think it'd be very satisfying, if not disappointing, to use the Pokemon Stadium name for a game that isn't Pokemon Stadium 3. Now, the thing that I will say about that is I think Pokemon Stadium really relates well to the theme of competitive quality, because the original Pokemon Stadium released in Japan was made for the competitive scene at the time. And
Right.
it was made to kind of try to treat balancing issues. Like, one of the things I heard was Blizzard was super overpowered with like a 30% chance to freeze, and they nerfed that to 10% and stuff like that. So I think in that same spirit, that would have been a very, very interesting decision. And I think with an aesthetics choice, Pokemon Stadium has some very, very diverse backgrounds to it, and that's the thing that I really remember about it is the locations that you get to battle in, with the Poke Cup and the larger cups, and even like the gym leader spots. I think that would have been a very great opportunity for a map, where the stadium could have been the exact same layout. We don't need to change that, but it could have been the Pokemon Stadium, and then the other maps that come out could have been Viridian City, could have been what's that like, what is it? It's the city in Diamond and Pearl. It's where the ghost gym leader is. I always think about that one.
Hardhome?
Is it Hardhome?
Yeah, with the contest hall.
Yeah, I guess it is. Huh. Yeah. We could add Hardhome City and shit. But maybe I'm not seeing it from a MOBA perspective, because the only thing I know about MOBAs is their backgrounds are diverse. If you look at Dota, they're very, very complex, but they still keep that same, streamlined, streamlined feel, so that at least something isn't confusing. They've got bridges, they've got small streams. So I think stuff like that could have worked super well to just even diversify the looks, so we could have had some more eye candy instead of just, generic Pokemon Island with trees.
Yeah. I mean, I only ever really played, I think it was called Pokemon Coliseum on the Wii, which was kind of the
Oh,
same.
I love Coliseum.
But like, my God, if they went that way and designed environments like they did in Coliseum, I would be so happy.
Right?
Like the stadiums in Coliseum were so just gorgeous
Oh, and the
and
music.
distinct. The
Right.
music was incredible. Um, if they were to sort of take that mindset of making these super distinct, really colorful arenas, with like these great soundtracks, whatever. Um, that would have given this game, I think, a lot more goodwill. I don't want to see a map that I can like ask. If it weren't for the models, I would think that Pokemon Unite's map is just like from League.
Right, exactly. And
That's not a good thing.
no, it's not a good thing at all. I don't want to have to. Yeah, if they took away the models from that game, I would have never have known that it was a Pokemon game. And no matter how much I analyze and no matter how much I can look at it and say, "Oh, now I see the Pokemon nuances," I don't feel that makes good design because distinctly I'm not seeing that it's Pokemon. I have to look
Right.
deeper at it to realize that it's Pokemon. And again, designs don't have to scream in my face and tell me that it's Pokemon, but I at least want to know at the first glance that I'm looking at a Pokemon game.
Right. And you can't get that from where they're currently at in Unite. And I hope there's still a part of me that's like, okay, maybe they just want to do something super basic for the first map, and then if they ever add in new maps, they'll put a new spin on them, give it some flair, whatever. But at the same time, they want to make this simple. I don't know what they're going to want to add down the line. You know?
That's what scares me too. I think at launch we're gonna get probably a month of the same map and the same Pokemon, and then from there we might get more. But that does kind of scare me, and the reason why I was very scared is because at launch, I think it was Pokemon Duel. Pokemon Duel was mechanically it was fun. It was based on the Pokemon figure game, but that game really only had one look to it, and yeah, that's fine. That wasn't like the driving point. But from there, it didn't branch out to anything, and that's kind of what scared
Right.
me about seeing Pokemon Unite. Is it gonna fall to the same trap where it's just one map, you keep playing the same recycled thing with a new Pokemon every 2 months? You know?
Right. And don't get me wrong. I play Overwatch. I am very much used to like long dev times and droughts. Heck, Overwatch 2 was announced like 8 months ago, and we've not heard anything
Nothing.
since.
Nothing.
But like, at least with Overwatch, I know they're working. You know, uh, eh, Blizzard generally updates their stuff. Generally, they have WoW. That's kind of a good indicator of if they're willing to update their IPs. But Pokemon doesn't have that same track record. This is their first foray into uh, a non like puzzler and a non RPG, you know? And that scares me because, you know, it's pretty obvious that they want this to be big. Of
Yeah, of
course,
course. Yeah, you. Why wouldn't you, right?
to a point, I don't think they would be too opposed to a competitive scene. You know, that drives a lot of attention towards the game. Why wouldn't they want a competitive scene? But at the same time, I do not know if I trust them to balance this game properly.
No, no, I don't. I don't either. That's one concern I have. But to be fair, the lead developers on it are TiMi, and I believe Pokemon Company is just kind of there as reconnaissance. And I do think that's kind of where some of the stylistic choices came from. Uh, so I kind of trust them from my 4 hours of research and looking at Daddy Deepfake. So that
I
that
don't
might
know
not be a
though.
good indication.
If I know anything about Nintendo and their subsidiaries, it's that they're very controlling on their own IPs.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
true. Yeah.
I think especially like the only instance of like giving someone an IP that like they didn't put their hands all over that I know of is like Cadence of Hyrule. And even then, I don't know much about that game. They might have had a massive uh, reach on that game. I don't know anything about TiMi Studios, but for, the stated goal is to keep this accessible. I do not see a world where TiMi has like the majority of control over this project.
Definitely. That was one of my thoughts too. No matter if they're like the lead developers or not, I don't think they'll get the say. I do think some part of my brain tells me that Charizard will have 2 megas and fucking no Draco Meteor because that's how they want to roll.
I mean, even if it was like Riot Games, even if Riot Games were working on this, I don't think that they would have full control over the project because Riot does not make the most successful games in the world.
No.
What? League of Legends, Valiant, whatever it's
Valorant.
called.
Yeah.
Valorant. Sorry, my brain's on Overwatch today.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
You know, it's not as if those games are accessible. Those genres in and of themselves are not really accessible, especially MOBAs. Those are some of the most complex games you could ever make.
Hmm.
And for a fact the Pokemon Company is going to be looming over TiMi like a awful storm cloud. Any wrong move and the Pokemon Company is going to step in.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, if honestly if they think using their own brains, then it's over for TiMi developing that. They'll take it right back and ruin it.
And then like that's another thing, like I really hope this doesn't go into development hell.
Yeah, neither do I. Neither do I.
I can see it happening though.
Yeah, well, the thing, like, I'm definitely an optimist. I always try to be, and I really really hope that this game can be a good Pokemon game because I honestly think that we need it. We need another good Pokemon game that we can look fondly on. And whether that be a MOBA or not, I want it to be something that I can play with my friends and remember it incredibly fondly. That's what I'm hoping for. And that might be big stakes because one of the games that comes to mind when I say that is Smash Bros. So
yeah,
we're not getting to Smash Bros, but
no, God no.
100%.
No, I don't know. I try to be optimistic, but I've seen too many games where there's this great concept that breaks the mold from what a series is doing, but the publisher doesn't like that, and they put too much control over the project, and they work the developers to the bone. The game comes out, it's garbage.
Do you have any games that come to mind when you say that?
I believe one of them was like the Silent Hill remastered collection.
Right,
Because
yeah.
that had some major issues with just Konami being Konami.
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Well, they didn't even have the gold masters of some of the old games, and it's not as if the original team that worked on Silent Hill was still with Konami at that point. So they throw this on the dev team, expecting a quick turnaround, because well, it's just a couple of HD remasters. How bad could it really be? You guys are good at this stuff, I guess.
I guess.
They throw this on them with very little guidance, a lot of restrictions on what they can and can't do because Konami wants it one way and blah 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 blah. Comes out garbage. I could see this going down a similar route.
Yeah, because if there's something notorious about Nintendo and its subsidiaries, it's that they're very very controlling of their IPs.
Remember when you couldn't even make content of their games for like years?
Exactly, like fucking amazing games fell to the wayside because of that. Like, well, Pokemon Uranium, was it? Is that what they called it? with the green
I believe
Pokemon.
so.
Yeah, games like that, you don't hear a thing about that now because we're really not allowed to talk about
Right,
it.
right. Like, you know, I was more talking about how, like, you can't make YouTube videos of Nintendo content without being
Mm,
part of their partner program, and they've eased up on that. That's not a thing anymore. But they're still so notoriously protective of their IPs. ROM hacks are rare. Anything that's truly transformative of what the games are even more rare. You know, they've shut down entire websites because they've had ROMs of Nintendo games that are no longer even in production and haven't been touched for years, right? I do not see a world where this mindset does not continue with Pokemon Unite.
yeah, I definitely don't think just because now they're working with another company that it's gonna change anything. Um, but I guess the last words I want to say on the subject is I really really hope that this game comes out good, whether it be with Pokemon's word or not. And I think once it releases, let's play it a little bit, and then maybe we can get back together to see how we feel about it.
Sure.
Because I think that's really important because everything that we've talked about today, about Pokemon Unite, has been from one demo, and the
True.
fucking frame rate was shit for it. So it was like watching a slideshow of it.
It's
So
all very speculative.
yes,
Um,
yeah. So we can't really, we I guess we won't know until it comes out, eh?
yeah, I guess not.
Now the next thing I need is Pokemon CS:GO.
The Pokemon gun logo has to be used somewhere.
That's a terrible idea. Hey, look at that! You made it to the end of the episode. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Lorusso's Room, and I hope that this week's episode got you thinking a little bit. If you're a fan of Pokemon Unite and you have your own opinions on the project, I strongly advise you to start a discussion in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts, opinions, and ideas on the subject, because I am surely interested to know what the community thinks about this game. I hope you'll come back next week, same time, same place. Stay beautiful.